Continuing our discussion on the Supreme Court nomination process with our distinguished guest, Dr. Craig Smith. In this segment, we want to look at the Judiciary Committee hearings in the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's a fascinating study in constitutional history.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the current atmosphere of making these hearings public and them becoming controversial started in the Johnson administration in 1968 when Earl Warren wanted to leave the court finally. And he wanted Johnson to...
Chief Justice Earl Warren.
Chief Justice Earl Warren. He wanted Johnson to appoint somebody to replace him. And Johnson turned to a sitting Associate Justice, Abe Fortas, and said, Abe, you're my friend, you've been an advisor, I'm going to make you the Chief Justice. And what happened was they discovered that Abe Fortas was receiving payments from the Wolfson Foundation, which was inappropriate. And so his nomination, not only was his nomination for Chief Justice killed, but he had to step down from the court. Then Johnson lost, the administration lost the election, running Hubert Humphrey. Nixon became president and got 2 appointments right away.
So Nixon walks in, and he has 2 vacancies to fill,
right,
which is very unusual, maybe historically unique. And what happens?
What happens is, on his first one, he replaces Chief Justice Warren, who steps down, with Justice Burger, who becomes the new Chief Justice. All's well and good, that went easy. Now you still have the old Fortas seat that's open, and so now he tries to go south, his Southern strategy to bring Southern Democrats into the Republican Party.
Now, just by way of context, you remember that President Johnson had, after President Kennedy was assassinated, moved ahead with an ambitious civil rights agenda.
That's right.
Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965, Civil Rights Act of 1968, and he realized that politically he would be losing the South, but President Johnson believed in the importance of civil rights.
That's right.
But this presented an opening for the Republicans, and Nixon took advantage of it with the Southern strategy, appealing to the Southerners who objected to these civil rights legislations.
That's right. And so his next nomination was G. Harold Carswell, a judge from Georgia. And it was then discovered during the vetting process that Carswell had made racial remarks during the 1948 presidential campaign. So he got eliminated. So Nixon goes south again.
This is part of the vetting during the Judiciary Committee hearings.
That's right. So Nixon went south again to a guy named Clement Haynsworth, a South Carolina judge, and it turned out that he had the same problem that Fortas had, that he was taking some money, he had ruled on some cases. It was very remote, but they felt they couldn't be hypocritical, the Republicans. They had gotten rid of Fortas, so down went Clement Haynsworth. And so finally, Nixon says, and you can see this on the tapes and in the transcripts, he says, what about that clown Renchberg down in the Justice Department?
It's not even his name.
And Haldeman says, you mean Rehnquist? And he says, yeah, Rehnquist, let's put him on the court. And so they nominated Rehnquist, who eventually became Chief Justice.
And he had no judicial experience, and that's relevant to our current nominee.
Yeah, she doesn't have, Elena Kagan is in the same boat as William Rehnquist. Neither one of them ever sat as a judge.
A couple of other fascinating episodes, that of Bork and Clarence Thomas.
Well, Bork was the first ideological fatality. You may remember that Joe Biden had been dumped out of the presidential race in 1987. So he sought revenge by stopping Ronald Reagan's nomination of Robert Bork to the Supreme Court.
And Bork is a brilliant constitutional scholar.
Who's written many, many articles and has a long trail of writing.
But very conservative.
Very conservative, very clean. No financial problems, no scandal. So for the first time, they go after a nominee based on what that nominee has written in terms of his ideological approach. And that eventually did Bork in as he being too conservative.
Let me ask you, as a constitutional scholar, what is the right criteria for up or down on a nominee? Is it right to reject someone because he or she is too conservative or too liberal? Or does the president have the right to, since the president was elected by all the people, to select who he or she wants?
I think as long as it's a person of character, that their ideological bent should not matter. That's the prerogative of the president. That's why we've elected the president. If the nominee has a financial problem, has done something illegal, of course they should be not
So in your view,
selected.
The Senate confirmation process requiring a majority vote, as you pointed out, is not to reject someone because of philosophy, but because of these other things.
That's right. That's right.
But others have a different view than you do.
Absolutely. And then, of course, after Bork, we had the huge controversy over Clarence Thomas, when during the vetting process, and quite late in it, they discovered this testimony before the FBI. Anita Hill, who said that she had been sexually harassed by Clarence Thomas, and that led to a huge blow up, a second round of hearings, and that's where Clarence Thomas said, you know, this is a public televised lynching of an uppity black man, and I won't stand for it.
Now, would you say he was playing the race card in that statement?
I think he played whatever he had to play to get nominated, and he barely made it through, but he got on the court, and he's been there, and he hasn't been a problem as far as most people are concerned.
Fascinating episodes in constitutional history. Well, in the next segment, we will talk about what is likely to happen with the current nominee. We'll be right back.
Phil Trani's mixes California style with continental cuisine that includes fresh seafood from around the world. Since Phil is the chef, the menu has a wide variety of pastas, salads, soups, and appetizers that feature his unique personal touch. And the Italian-American signature dishes are simply beyond delicious. You never know who you're going to run into at Trani's, from the famous sports legends on the Wall of Fame to local celebrities having a drink at the bar. For the best fine dining experience, visit Phil Trani's.
At Performance Plus Tire, you'll find we carry Toyo tires. For over 50 years, Toyo has been a world leader in the development of high-quality tires. Optimum performance, safety, and a comfortable ride. That's what makes Toyo tires great. And now come into Performance Plus Tire for a great deal on these Toyo tires. Proxys ST, Open Country AT, and Proxys 4. Toyo tires, driven to perform. Come in today and we'll install new Toyo tires on your vehicle while you wait. Performance Plus Tire on Cherry Avenue, 1 mile north of the 405 in Long Beach.
When I was a boy growing up in Italy, I had a dream to own my own store. I came to the United States and I worked hard as a tailor. Hi, I'm Umberto. I've been in Long Beach since 1960, carrying the finest quality men's clothing. Italy's a long way away, but styles are just around the corner. Umberto, 2141 Bellflower, Long Beach.